We're here to launch Kieran's book. Kieran Tapsell was studying for the Catholic priesthood at St Columban's College in Springwood, and then at St Patrick's College at Manly. And Ed, I used to pay you a visit at St Patrick's College in Manly. You had a lovely room overlooking Fairy Bower.
Were you the dope dealer?
Yeah, I was. So, you know, you shared times at St Patrick's at there. Kieran was there from 1962 to 1967. During that time he studied canon law for some 3 years and obtained his Bachelor of Theology degree. After leaving the seminary, he studied law at Sydney University, graduating with second-class honours in 1972. He was admitted as a solicitor and barrister of the Supreme Court in New South Wales in 1973. And he is a partner in the firm of Watkins Tapsell from 1973 to 2004. He's an accredited specialist in commercial litigation and advocacy. He was a district court arbitrator and mediator. He was an acting district court judge from 1996 to 1999 and the author of many articles in legal journals on topics within his area of specialisation. Since his retirement from legal practice in 2004, he's been translating Latin American literature and newspaper columns from Spanish to English. The launcher of today's book is, of course, Father Ed Campion. Ed is a Demetrius Professor, and he just received his higher degree from Sydney University, and we thank him for coming. Ed was born in Sydney in 1933 and educated at a little school down by the river, where I also went in Lane Cove. He obtained his Bachelor of Arts from Sydney University in 1954. He then went on to complete a Master of Arts at the University of Cambridge, as well as theological studies through the Catholic Institute in Sydney. He was ordained a priest in 1961, and he's been curate in many of Sydney's parishes. He was, back in his early days, he also reviewed books at the Bulletin back in the 60s, and was well known for his work while at the Bulletin. Ed goes on for many pages. However, I won't continue with Father Ed because we're not here to talk about Father Ed, but we are here for Ed to introduce Kieran's book. So Ed Campion, please. Thank you very much.
Sorry I was nearly the late Ed Campion, but I got the times wrong. So, let me begin. Fellow readers, this is an extraordinary moment. For the first time, ordinary members of the Church, people like you and me, not canonists, not bishops, but for the first time, ordinary people can learn from Kieran's book what lies behind the cover-up of the clerical pedophilia all over the world. But that's Kieran's story, and I'm not going to steal it from him. We're here to listen to him more than to me. For a long time, it's been a secret, known only to the few, not the rest of us. Now we know. Lord Acton, who Kieran quotes, the historian who Kieran quotes as an epigraph for the book, said, "No secret lasts more than 38 years. Well, the secret Kieran has discovered to the world lasted a lot longer than that, but thanks to him, now we know." Reading the book over the past week or so, I've often been reminded of another saying of Lord Acton's, something he said of a German historian whose work, he said, was scholarship quickened by journalism. And I thought, yes, you can say that about Kieran's work. He's written a big book, it's 351 pages, there are 700 footnotes, 97% of them from the internet, many of those from daily papers, but he's always aware of the real world outside his book. The sad, broken, destroyed lives of the victims of predators that the system protected again and again without a care for the consequences. What was that system? In a word, clericalism. The privileging of the priests that walled them off from the experience of their fellow Christians. The word itself, clericalism, doesn't come into existence till about 1865. It was part of the war of ideas about Italian identity. But the thing itself, the reality of clericalism, was there long before that. Where to begin to tell this story? Well, it's the feast of St. Augustine of Canterbury today, so perhaps I should start with him. He arrived in Kent at the end of the 6th century, 596, 97, as an agent of Pope Gregory the Great's Romanising of the Western Church. And you can see the influence very quickly, because very quickly in the Saxon kingdoms, the law builds clericalism into their legal systems. In court, for instance, in the Saxon kingdoms, a bishop ranked with a king. His word had to be accepted without an oath. The laws of the kingdoms enforced clerical charges such as clerical tithes, burial fees, Peter's pence. All of these are in the laws of the kingdoms. Peter's pence, by which each household paid a penny a year to show their fealty to the See of Peter. The laws gave protection to church property and the clergy. And soon, church courts became the only courts where clergy could be tried for any crime. And some of you will know that it was over that the great battle between Becket and Henry II was fought, ending with the assassination of Becket in 1170, which forced the Pope to extend that privilege of the courts across the Western Church. But it's not all privilege clericalism. There were, I think you might admit, disadvantages. First of all, the clergy had to be physically distinguished from everyone else. They had to have their hair tonsured. They couldn't put hair oil on their hair. And although the friars and the monks wore special costumes, the secular clergy, my crowd, didn't do that, but they were ordered to wear drab clothing and unfashionable shoes. They were ordered to keep out of pubs. They were barred from going to shows put on by actors, jesters, minstrels. They weren't to engage in any sing-songs, and if they were somewhere where lewd songs were sung or dirty jokes, they were not to laugh. And if they were eating in a tavern because they were travelling and there was nowhere else to get some food, then they must be very careful not to get drawn into a drinking school where they might have to shout their rounds, which in the sapient words of the Fourth Lateran Council could lead to exile of the mind. I'm sure some of you know the Lateran Council. And of course, very obviously, they were not to marry.